As you all know by now, Gypsy Rose Blanchard has given birth to her first child. But this is what she has to say about that experience, talking to her friend Bree.
6 centimeters. So they had given me Pitocin to kind of speed things up a little bit.
Right.
And then I took like a 2-hour nap. And then I wake up from my 2-hour nap. They check my cervix. I'm 10 centimeters dilated. And they're like, okay, my doctor's like, it's time to push. And I'm like, my eyes got so big. Chris can't even tell you that my eyes got so big because I'm like, oh my God, here it comes.
Was it just Ken there with you?
Ken wasn't there. Yeah, Ken wasn't there.
I'm saying, was it just Ken?
Yeah, it was just Ken. We talked about it, and I know that we had said, oh, Mia might be in there with us, Christy might be in there with us. But then when it came down to it, then Ken was like, okay, this is a moment for us. So we kind of kicked her.
I really don't give a fuck how much flack I'll get for this, but I believe that all life, all babies are precious, okay? I hate when people sit here and say that they're for the death penalty or they're for pro-choice, okay? And then in the same breath, they want to say that there's value to all life. That right there proves with your own hypocrisy that you don't apply your same, what you think are your values and morals to your actual belief system and your priorities. So for me, that has always been problematic. I believe that babies in life are always a blessing and always a gift. Okay? No matter who it is. That child is innocent. That baby is innocent. There are so many people in the United States, in the world, that are infertile, that's all they would ever want is to be able to carry one child and to give birth, while other people have a dozen kids and they don't take care of them or they're not in their lives. And so with that said, now I don't agree that her crime was right, but that was a crime that you cannot come back from. That is a crime you cannot reverse. That's why it is a rule, a righteous rule of God and law of men, no matter what language or realm you're from, that thou shalt not kill. Because that is not a mistake. Like, oh, I accidentally misspelled a word. Here, let me erase it. You cannot do that once you take somebody's life. And her actions, choices, behavior, and her crime inadvertently, by proxy, put somebody in prison for the rest of his life. He doesn't get a chance to have a child or a family or a second chance. And he doesn't get to be rehabilitated or reformed and have his time to stand and have his ability to tell his story after being manipulated for 3 years into believing that this person was so egregiously ABUSED that there was no other option. After exhausting all these other plans and options, he felt that was the only thing that he could do to actually help her. And the thing is that his stepfather, his father, his brother, they're all suffering as well because his mother is not here because of her choice, because of her crime. So I think definitely that babies in life are precious, and that is not to be held against her child, her baby. But in the same breath, if she really cared about her own child, would she have been smoking her entire pregnancy? We know smoking causes severe chronic ear infections in children. It causes low birth weight. It causes a whole array of other breathing issues in children. It can actually lead to a higher rate of SIDS. And I think that as far as that goes, if you're going to sit here and say that her mom did not deserve to have her life art and taken from her in any kind of capacity, you better be the same type of person who values life across the board. Because when you don't value life across the board, you value no life. And you're saying that some lives are more valuable than others. Now, she was never prosecuted in a court of law for a heinous felony crime like first-degree child neglect, okay? She does not get to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner in anything. So until that were to happen, you cannot sit here and say, well, she did this, she did that to her own daughter. She deserved to pass away. Fuck you. No, she did not. No, she did not. What she deserved, if that were the case, was to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and to suffer her own consequences for that. And that never took place. That never occurred. That never happened. So when you talk about bodily autonomy, there's nothing that strips somebody from their bodily autonomy more than taking away their life, their civil and constitutional and basic human right to their life. And so for me, when I hear people saying in the same breath that they are pro-choice, that's a contradiction in terms, because you're saying that that woman should have the ability to unalive a child that's not even born yet, but she doesn't the right to her mother. No, you have to make sure that you're making sense when it comes to your priorities, your values, and your morals. And if you value life and you want to say that equality and equity is first and foremost a foundation of our Constitution, that you have the right to your body, your person, your safety, your space, your life. You cannot fundamentally sit here and say that those lives are less valuable and that the mother should have the right to strip them from it. So I don't sit here and voice my opinions on this, but I am going to voice this. For people that are hateful towards Gypsy or her child, unfortunately, there's nothing that anybody can do to protect or save her child, even from herself. But if you're going to be the type of person that sits here and says that her mother did not deserve to pass away like I do, you better make sure that you apply the same value to that life that was taken as you do all others. Because otherwise, what you're telling people is that, oh, the people in Hollywood that are A-listers, the ones that are wealthy and rich, their value's up here. And these unborn children, because they're inside of somebody else's body, they're at the mercy and the decision of the body they're inside of. And that their value is down here. Now, see, I think that if you're going to say equality and equity, and you're going to talk about basic human rights and civil and constitutional rights, and you're going to talk about value of human life, all human life should be valuable to everybody. You shouldn't pick and choose. The only exception that may be debated in that whole entire topic is the fact that when you commit a very serious felony crime, like taking somebody else's life, then you by law and by God, forfeit the right to your own and to your own freedom. Some people may debate that certain heinous crimes warrant the death penalty. Some people don't, because an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is not always going to bring justice. Sometimes all that does is just create more injustice on other people inadvertently. So she can sit here and she can continue lying for the past 9.5 years to everybody. But my Gypsy content still for the last 15 months has still been getting me higher views than anything else and more comments than anything else. And as much as I would love to stop talking about her, she needs to stop talking about herself and stop talking, period. And then people wouldn't have anything to cover. Oh, and this is in Slidell, Louisiana, before they ever even moved to Missouri. That they were really lucky because they had social workers for Gypsy. But let's slide back to what she's talking about. Gypsy is essentially bragging about her birth experience. Now, Gypsy is only 4'11". I'm 5'10". Okay, so I'm very tall. And she was a very heavy smoker throughout her pregnancy. I can guarantee that that child was very petite, very small. Females tend to be a little bit smaller than males. Anyway, all of my boys were over 9 pounds each. And my daughters were just shy of 8 pounds. And so her bragging about her birth experience, I think you have to take into consideration that her child was very small, that she's small, and that when you scale it is equal. But the fact that she's just bragging about how, oh, it was like nothing to her because she had epidural. Well, that's what happens when you're numb in your spine. So I really pray and hope for this baby's future, and that Gypsy turns her life around for her sake.